Hi everyone, back to our channel. Today we are going to start the Entamoeba histolytica. Belong to the phylum Sarcomastigofera. It is pathogenic, that is the intestinal amoeba causing amoebiasis dysentery. So as it is pathogenic, that's why we are studying the Entamoeba histolytica. There are also non-pathogenic forms like E. gingivalis, E. coli, E. nana, I. butsi and D. fragilis. But E. gingivalis is non-pathogenic, present in mouth. Others are present in intestinal amoeba. So let us see introduction. Entamoeba species occur in both vertebrate and invertebrate hosts. There are 5 species: histolytica, dispar, hartmanni, coli, gingivalis. Different species but the same genus belonging to Entamoeba. So Entamoeba histolytica is estimated to infect about 50 million people worldwide. Previously it was thought that only 10% of the world population was infected, but these figures predate the recognition that at least 90% of these infections were due to second species. The mammals such as dogs and cats can become infected transiently but are not tough to contribute significantly to the transmission. So this belonging to the genus Entamoeba is causing diarrhea, dysentery and also liver abscess. So the major, first it attacks the intestine, later it may go to the liver for causing the liver abscess, and it was first discovered by Losch, that is it is a pathogenic in nature, and Schodin differentiate into this pathogenic and non-pathogenic types of Entamoeba. Actually its geographical distribution is worldwide, common in tropics, subtropics, and mainly they live in the mucus and submucosal layer of our large intestine. Those are the tissue invading forms. So we can study them by staining like iodine or iron hematocylin, and also by unstained processes. So before studying the morphology, we need to know the 3 phases, that is the trophozoite state, the pre-cystic state and the cystic stage. So the trophozoite state is nothing but the feeding and replicating form is the trophozoite state. It is a motile form of the Entamoeba histolytica. It is a growing and feeding. So what is this? Let us see. It measures 12 to 16 micrometers in diameter, and the cytoplasm of trophozoite is divided into clear ectoplasm and a granular endoplasm. Here you can see this is a clear ectoplasm, this is a granular endoplasm. The clear ectoplasm has a finger-like projection for its motility known as pseudopodium. And in a granular, here you can see in this granular layer we have the WBC, RBC, food granules, food vacuoles, karyosome. Actually karyosome is the central portion of the nucleus, and it is present, and it is surrounded by halo linen like network. And here you can see the outer layer is a nuclear membrane made up of granular layer. So this linen network is between the karyosome and the outer granular nuclear membrane layer of the nucleus in the trophozoite. And next, here that is what all RBC are found in the stage of invasion. So what is the stage of invasion? Now let us see here. The trophozoite is divided into invasive form and non-invasive form. Invasive form is the trophozoite of Entamoeba histolytica with several RBCs in the food vacuole. Non-invasive form is food vacuoles often with particles of being digested, usually bacteria or starch grains. So the invasive form is the most infectious form. Non-invasive form is not causing the severe disease, that is a person may remain just asymptomatic and acts as a carrier. But in the invasive form the person is severely affected. Sometimes it may lead to liver abscess, also pulmonary cardiac abscess, and also may reach to brain. So it is dangerous if it is in the form of invasion. So invasive form, we can remember it having RBC in the food vacuole. Hemoscylin stained in the microscope of Entamoeba histolytica. The trophozoites, karyosome, here you can see the nuclear membrane, outer membrane, and also vacuoles, etc. So this is all about it. And next we'll go to the pre-cystic stage or immature cyst. This is a single nucleus with its central endosome, and regularly distributed chromatin is visible. So you can see the chromatid bars which are stained dark, and a glycogen vacuole, and also the nucleus, single nucleus. Sometimes there may be also the double nucleus. So actually what this immature cyst is, it has a glycogen vacuole, but here in previous trophozoite stage you can see there is a food vacuole, because I think you can guess it, because the immature cyst is immotile. As it is immotile, it need to store the energy, so it stores the energy in the form of glycogen vacuole. But the trophozoite is motile, so it can easily take the food, so it has a food vacuole. So this is the difference between them. And next we can see its approximate size is 18 micrometers with 1 or 2 nuclei. The dark rods in the cytoplasm are the chromatid bars, and the glycogen vacuole and also chromatid bars can be seen. So this is about the immature cyst. And this immature cyst is very small. It may be 10 to 20 micrometer and there are no RBC. You can see no RBC in the endoplasm, and also no food particles. So that mature cyst. The mature cyst is the most infective form of the Entamoeba histolytica. Here you can see there are 4 nucleus. So this is the known as quadrinucleate mature cyst. It's 6 to 9 micrometers, and if they may be more larger than 12 to 15 micrometers. Actually, the trophozoite stage undergoes the binary fission and forms 2 nucleus first, and next divided into 4 nucleus. This is what here you can see. So as the nucleus are formed by regular binary fission, even the nucleus size decreases to 2 microns in the mature cyst. So mature cyst with 4 nuclei, the glycogen vacuole and chromatid bars are absent. So this one is so this mature cyst, whenever it passes through the fecus, it may remain up to 1 to 2 while, and also it is alive up to 1 to 2 days, and it requires the utmost moisture to be carried to other persons and to be alive. So there is a simple test to identify whether the cyst is alive or not, that is by eosin test. If the cyst is dead, then it stains with the weak eosin, and if the cyst is alive, it does not take any stain. So this is an easy method we can find out that whether cyst is alive or dead. So to make the cyst dead, that is to stop this infection carrying to other person, we can heat this cyst at 50 degrees because it is known as a thermal dead point of the cyst. So this trophozoite can also be prepared in saline preparations. It is identified by motility and presence of RBC, appear yellow-green in the endoplasm. And next, the reproduction. So before starting the next topic, we need to know first the reproduction. The reproduction is divided into excistation and cystation. So what is this excistation? Excistation, as the name suggests, excistation means the cyst is converting into trophozoite. So this is what it passes the cyst to the alimentary canal of the man, and the one quadrinucleate cyst is divided into 8 amoebulae. Each is capable to form the trophozoite. And encystation, as the name suggests, encystation means again into cyst, that is the trophozoite again converts into cyst. This takes place in the lumen of the intestine, and next it enters into the bowel of the man, and its lifespan is for 2 days. Later again it divides into the 4 nuclear mature cyst. So the mature cyst is the most infecting stage of the Entamoeba histolytica, and here you can see the cyst wall. The cyst wall is exclusively produced by Entamoeba to resist against the gastric molecules, gastric proteins in our body, in our stomach especially, to survive in the extreme conditions, so that it can enter the intestine easily and they can form ulcers there. So the multiplication of the trophozoite phase, especially by binary fission, leading to the production of this 4 nucleus in this. And next, let us see here which one is immature cyst or mature cyst. We can easily identify now because here there are 4 nuclei. So this is the mature cyst, and the others are, you can see, only 1 nuclei. So those are the immature cyst. And next, coming to the life cycle. The life cycle is the most important but very simple. That is the mature cyst again converting to trophozoite, the trophozoite again converting into cyst, and the cycle continues. So what happens, where it reaches, all those things now let us see. So first, what happens is the Entamoeba histolytica from the mature cyst gets infected. It is swallowed by the man in the form of contaminated water, food, and next excistation takes place in the ileum cecum, and next liberated into 1 amoeba with 4 nuclei. So actually what we need to remember is excistation takes place here, and after the excistation takes place, excistation means what? Again converting into trophozoite. The trophozoite is the most motile form, so it easily moves all over our intestine and occupies the intestinal tissues, making them ulcerous forms. And next, that too in trophozoite, the metacyst trophozoite is the most motile form, which is creating ulcers, and the young amoeba motile invade the tissue and lodge in the submucosa tissue of the large intestine, and next multiply by the binary fission. The trophozoite phase of the parasite responsible for producing the lesions, and these lesions are made by the parasite, that is to get nourishment from the tissues. But sometimes this if parasites makes more lesion, it is even disadvantage to itself, because if it makes more lesions in the intestine, the tissue will be eroded and it can't get further more nutrition in its future. And next, it enters deep layers sometimes, that is reaching up to the serosa layer of the large intestine. So when it reaches there, it may easily pass through the blood and enters the portal vein. So by this, it enters the liver. So it is the second most part which is affected in our body after intestine is liver, forming the liver abscess. So after liver abscess, it may go to lungs, heart, and also sometime to the brain. So this is what the entamoeba's life cycle is. So once here we will see the several successive stages occur in life cycle, that is trophozoite, precystic, metacyst, and metacystic trophozoite. When swallowed, the cyst passes through the stomach unharmed to the small intestine. Then the metacyst forms and begins to move within the cyst walls, rapidly weaken and tear. Then metacystic trophozoite invade into the intestinal mucosa to multiply to trophozoite. Then as fecal matter passes posteriorly and becomes dehydrated, the parasite is stimulated to encyst to form the precyst. So the precyst rapidly secrete a thin, tough hyaline cyst wall to form cyst. So the key points of the life cycle are the infective stage is a mature cyst, and the SS, that is by which it enters its mouth, and ecological niches, that where it lives is large intestine, liver, lung, and also other organs. The pathogenic stage is trophozoite, that too especially metacystic trophozoite. And next, diagnostic stage, so where we can find it by cyst trophozoite, because these are the infective forms, so we can diagnose them. So in diagnostic methods, there are also the way to form the culture of Entamoeba histolytica. Actually, it requires the flour and starch for its culture, and also some enteric bacteria assess them, and also the T. cruzi parasite, which may be living or death, also helps it. The washed amoeba with thioglycerate and horse serum is actually formed to culture the Entamoeba. And we can see this Entamoeba easily in the stool. So that we actually examine it, and it completes whole life cycle only in the one host, that is man mostly, and sometimes in the monkeys, and in kittens it is mostly so much fatal to it. And next, parasite in intestine causing the acute dysentery. So what happens in the intestine? Let us say an intestinal lesion usually develops inside the cecum, appendix, or upper colon, and then spreads the length of the colon. Parasite numbers build up in the ulcer, increasing the speed of mucosal destruction. The muscularis mucosa is somewhat the barrier to further progress, and the pockets of amoebas form, communicating with intestinal lumen through a slender duct-like opening. The lesion may stop at the basement membrane at muscularis mucosa and begin eroding laterally, causing broad, shallow areas of necrosis. Tissues may heal nearly as fast as they are destroyed, or the entire mucosa may become pocked, like here. Here you can see the pinpoint lesion, typical flash-shaped amoebic ulcer of the colon. And one more thing important is that the encystation and excistation takes place in the same host. Because excistation takes place in the alimentary canal or ileum or cecum, and encystation takes place in the large intestine, that is in the same host. So this is to understand. And by tablets, as the person takes the tablets, the effect on the intestine decreases and the lesion heals slowly. So what happens is that the Entamoeba histolytica, just to don't remove its existence, it just convert into a small again cyst and gets into the bowel to contaminate again others in the form of mature cyst. And next, the incubation period is up to 4 to 5 days, and the symptoms are blood, mucus in the stool, and ulcers, and some are asymptomatic. So now here see, in older lesions, the amoebiasis assisted by bacteria may break through the muscularis mucosa, infiltrate the submucosa, and even penetrate the muscle layers and the serosa. In trophozoites, to be carried by the blood and lymph to the ectopic sites throughout the body, where secondary lesions then form. So the secondary lesions are mainly formed because of the flow of blood and lymph. The extraintestinal lesions. So there are extraintestinal lesions such as in liver, kidneys, lungs, brain, and normal or primary is the intestine. So here the secondary lesions have been found in nearly every organ of the body, but the liver is the most commonly affected after the intestine. So the extraintestinal lesion, hepatic amoebiasis. The center of abscess is filled with necrotic fluid. A median zone consists of liver stroma, and the outer zone consists of liver tissue being attacked by amoebiasis, although it is bacteriologically sterile. Pulmonary amoebiasis. The next most common secondary lesion after the liver is the pulmonary. It usually develops by metastasis from a hepatic lesion, but may originate independently. That is, in lungs, this may pass because of hepatic amoebiasis, or sometimes it may form directly from the blood or lymph. Other extestinal lesions or other ectopic sites occasionally encountered are the brain, skin. Rare ectopic sites include kidney, adrenal, spleen, male and female genitalia, and pericardium too. As a rule, all these ectopic abscesses are bacteriologically sterile. That is, no bacteria involved in this. The hepatic amoebiasis, here you can see this is the hepatic amoebiasis, an amoebic liver abscess being aspirated, the reddish brown color of the pus. This color is due to the breakdown of liver cells, that is hepatitis. that is, you can see as the liver cells are breakdown, you can see the chocolate form of color. The gross pathology of amoebic abscess of liver, tube of chocolate pus from the abscess. So it looks like a chocolate pus. The gross pathology of liver containing the amoebic abscess. Here you can see how the entamoeba affected the liver. The pathologic sample of a human amoebic liver abscess. So the clinical symptoms are, most of the people are asymptomatic carriers, that is 90% cases. Few are symptomatic, only 10%, that is 8 to 10. They show symptoms like dysentery, colitis, invasive amoebiasis, and also 0.1% of deaths. So this main metastatic trophozoite may also enter the crypts of lubricants of muscularis mucosa and mainly attack the intestine. So this is all about, and causing ulcers. So this is the main function of the Entamoeba histolytica, causing disease in our body. And next we'll see diagnosis. Actually in diagnosis we can take the stool, which is dark brown with RBC, pus, charcoal, Leyden crystals, diamond shaped. And always remember to take only fresh stool, because in fresh stool only we can observe the motile trophozoites in it, otherwise we can't observe, that too in symptomatic patient. But in asymptomatic patient it is waste to take the stool. If we take also, we need to take them 3 times in different intervals, because as is asymptomatic he may always not show the trophozoites in its stool. So it is better to take the serological test, that is in which the antibodies are formed against the entamoeba. So then we can easily identify that. So in asymptomatic patients it's better to take serological test, and in symptomatic patients it's better to take the stool. So this is, and for liver we need to take pus, and for lungs we need to take sputum and immunological tests. So let us see clinical symptoms. More commonly disease develops slowly with intermittent diarrhea, cramps, vomiting, general malaise. Amoebic diarrhea is marked by bouts of abdominal discomfort with 4 to 6 loose stools per day. So the person gets so much dehydrated, always recommend to give electronic solution. Acute amoebic dysentery is a less common condition. Conditions, the patient may be sudden after an incubation period of 8 to 10 days or after a long period in which the sufferer has been an asymptomatic cyst passer. The symptoms, there may be headache, fever, severe abdominal cramps, sometimes prolonged ineffective straining at stool. An average of 15-20 stools consisting of liquid feces with bloody mucus are passed per day. Death may occur from the peritonitis. So sometimes it also enters a peritoneal layer, so then death occurs, resulting from the gut perforation or from cardiac failure and also exhaustion. So the stool examination can be done by feces and direct smear with normal saline, and also the disease causing is amoebic dysentery. Remarks are the container must be clean, examine soon after they have been passed, select body and mucus portion, keep the specimen warm. So epidemiology, all climates, Arctic to tropical media, flies and bat beetles are the main cause which are passing this disease. Entamoeba histolytica distributed worldwide, with most occurring in tropical, subtropical countries where good sanitization is lacking. Estimated prevalence 50 million worldwide. It was one believed that the prevalence was high, 0.5 billion prior to recognition that most of these infections were caused by the morphologically identical but non-pathogenic E. dispar. So most of the cases are because of Entamoeba species dispar. The treatment and prevention is by dioquine, metronidazole, tinidazole and orinidazole. So diadoquine is given to the carriers, and metronidazole, tinidazole and orinidazole should be given to the dysentery and liver abscess patients in Entamoeba. And also I'll say some of the other drugs related to this. If it is invasive form, it is recommended to give emetine and dihydroemetine, and for liver and lungs we need to give chloroquine, that is 4-aminoquinol, and for lumen we need to give diodoquine, diodoquinol, entamide and humitin, and indirect luminal amoebicides we should recommend tetracycline, and for luminal and tissue we need to give the flagell related tinidazole and nitramidazole orally. So these are the medications for this. How to prevent and control, that is human feces should not be used as fertilizer. Food and drinks must be protected from flies. Personal hygiene, wash hands after defecation and before meals. So this is all are the common prevention and control for Entamoeba. So this is all about Entamoeba. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe. And one more thing, we can also find out this by CT scan, MRI and also ultrasonography.